I have absolutely no idea if I'm ready. How do you want me to answer that? Am I ready? I don't think you ever feel ready towing the starting line of a 100-mile race. Like, I've completed them before and I haven't felt like ready. You never know. That's like the thing with these ultra distances is there's so many variables and obstacles, and something is going to go, like something's going to pop up. Something's going to go wrong, whether it's like you're puking up your ramen or like you sprain your ankle or like whatever, like something is going to happen. So how in the heck do you say like, yeah, I feel pretty confident?
Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspects of running and what helps people to achieve success, however they define it, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. I'm really excited to introduce our newest podcast sponsor, Previnex. Many of you may have heard of Previnex and their joint health supplement, Joint Health Plus, which is a great joint health supplement that has become a go-to for many, many runners. But I actually want to tell you about a completely different product that has had an amazing impact on my health. First, for those of you who don't know Previnex, they make clinically effective supplements that promote longevity, performance, and everyday health, and they donate vitamins to malnourished children with every order, which is really cool. Most importantly, and I can tell you this from firsthand experience, their products are awesome and flat out work. So, for full transparency, I've struggled with GI issues for many years, which definitely has negatively impacted my running and health. I was diagnosed with IBS and have always had to go to the bathroom a bunch of times before getting out the door and hitting the trails or the road. I started taking Previnex's probiotic a few months ago, and my GI issues got so much better. I know I can't pin it on one change, but progress is progress. I was surprised, but when I took the probiotic with me on a visit to my sports dietitian, she wasn't. Previnex's probiotic has 30 billion healthy bacteria per serving, 6 clinically proven bacteria strains that address 6 different areas of digestive health, and a clinically proven prebiotic which helps with the growth and colonization of healthy bacteria in the gut. This episode is brought to you by Freedom Solar Power. When I first started looking into solar, I thought it would be a clunky and expensive process. I've learned it isn't nearly as hard as you think. Freedom Solar Power makes it simple. They provide a turnkey solution that is focused on educating their customers on the experience from installation to everyday use and savings. They ensure you have all the information needed to make sure going solar is right for you. From firsthand experience, it makes sense both financially and for the environment. With no down payment required, solar not only adds immediate value to your home, but it's also great for the environment and might even provide immediate savings, not to mention the year-end tax benefits, a credit of 26% this year. Freedom Solar operates in Texas, Colorado, Virginia, and Florida, and there are plenty of other great options nationwide. Thank you to Tracksmith for their continued support of this podcast. Tracksmith is an independent running brand inspired by a deep love of the sport. Their new fall collection just released and is now available. It features staples ready for all of your training and racing needs. As the weather begins to change, versatile pieces are essential for handling whatever the season holds. Tracksmith's Twilight Quarter Zip and Horizon Long Sleeve are standout transitional pieces on the run. The pin dot mesh of the Twilight Quarter Zip makes for a lightweight and airy top that can be layered or worn on its own. The Horizon Long Sleeve delivers the familiar feel of cotton with the performance of a tech blend that can be put through the paces and then be worn out for coffee afterwards. By using code FTLR at checkout, you can receive free shipping and support Bigger Than the Trail, an organization that is using trail running as a platform to advocate for mental health. Welcome back. I have Jess Woods joining me from New York. Jess, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Of course.
So the first question is always a hard one. Who is Jess?
Oh, geez. Well, let's just stick to who is like maybe the running side of Jess. Yes, my name is Jess Woods, Coach Jess. I am a Nike running coach here in New York City. I also coach for Brooklyn Track Club, founded Brooklyn Trail Club, and I also do one-on-one coaching through the Chosky Endurance Collective.
Very cool. So a lot of running, a lot of coaching, a lot of community.
Oh, that's great. You picked up on that. Yes, a lot of running, a lot of coaching, a lot of community, for sure.
All topics I love talking about, which I'm sure we'll get into. We connected at Leadville, and you had quite an adventure at Leadville this past weekend. So definitely want to chat about that. But let's start with you as a runner in general. So do you remember your first run?
Oh, my first run ever? I
Yeah.
don't remember well, actually, maybe I remember my first run. I started off in middle school track and field. So I was a sprinter and a triple jumper. Unsure how I found the triple jump at a young age, a very niche event, but stuck with it. And I would have to say, yes, it was like seventh grade middle school where you said you liked track and field and they had you try out every event to see what you were good at. And it was definitely not long distances. So we were a sprinter and a triple jumper.
So how did you go from sprinting and triple jumping to standing at 100-mile start lines? Just a couple of miles in between, right?
Yeah. A few miles in between. I mean, fast forward to, after college and moving to New York, I wasn't good enough to, do those events post collegiate career. And so I didn't really know who I was athletically, the first few years living in New York. And I'm going to date myself, but like 15 years ago, there was no like boutique fitness industry. And so your options were join a gym or do yoga to the people. Like those were kind of your two options. And so that didn't really work out. And my best friend Steph is a very serious runner. And so I figured if I wanted to spend time with her, I better learn how to do this thing. And so it was very short distances at first. And it was actually Lululemon that, earmuffs Nike, but it was actually Lululemon that was
We won't tell
very
Emily.
yeah, very patient and kind and free, and helped me like first 5K, first 10K, first half marathon. And I don't think it wasn't until maybe like 2012 that I found Nike running. But that was a really long story long of tried every distance in between sprinting and 100 miles. And I wasn't the fastest at any of those distances. So I figured, why not run farther? Because once you start hitting those crazy distances, people stop asking, like, what was your time? What was your pace? Like nobody asks that. They jump straight to like, did you sleep or what do you eat? So I thought, just making it through those extreme distances was the way to go.
Did you have to do any like mental prep or reconciliation to be able to think about like running 100 miles?
I feel like that's a common question of like, what do you think about out there? I feel like, even before I became a coach and I was working in television and had such crazy hours, the running piece and then the long distance race itself was always the escape, right? And it was just nice to have time where there was no phone, no email, no answering anything. And you were just kind of out there with almost your lack of thoughts. And so I guess I didn't need any mental prep per se, but yeah, it just became like a nice break away from real life, I guess.
And so when did you run your first ultra?
First ultra, I think it was back in 2012. I don't know if you remember like the North Face Endurance Challenge
Yeah.
series. I don't know if those are still going on, but that was such
Sadly,
a
they're
nice.
not.
I thought so, and we had a local one here in Bear
Yeah, Bear
Mountain, so that
Mountain.
was yeah. And, it was a big race and super well marked. You didn't have to worry about, am I going to get lost on my first ultra? And so I believe that was my first one, like the Bear Mountain 50K here in New York. And then, I didn't jump straight to 100-mile. It was 50K, 50-mile. And then where I really fell in love with it was it's called the Greater New York 100-mile running expedition. Like it's not even called a race. It's called TGNY 100, the Greater New York 100-mile running expedition. And I did the 100K version of it. It's all road. It's all through New York. But I think that's where I really started to love the ultra community and see the difference kind of between marathon and ultra, or I don't know. It was just a labor of love, this race in New York. The race organizer, just put it on out of the love of the sport, and just seeing the quirkiness of it and everyone coming together, and it's all volunteer aid stations, and if you volunteer at aid station you also have to supply the food and water. Like, it's just everybody coming together to make this silly pointless feat of athleticism happen. And it was that race that there was kind of no turning back after that one.
Very cool. And I totally agree. It is a silly feat of athleticism. I'm watching UTMB out of the corner of my eye right now. And
Yes.
it's like these people are running 107 miles through the Alps, and like they could hike it, they could drive around it, but we choose to do these things that are hard because it's fun. It allows us to see cool places and push our bodies in ways that 99% of the population can't even fathom.
Yeah. I mean, you're starting to sound like my mom a little bit when she's like, you can just vacation to these places. Like, you don't have
But
to
that's
run
not as fun.
there in order to see these things. But like, we of course all know that running is about more than just running. So, yeah, I don't know many people who run because they love running. I feel like there's always a story. There's always something more to it than that.
So what is it for you?
It's a little different now. I would say now that I'm a coach, I do these things to, try and set an example or inspire or motivate. Because, like I said, no one's going to be motivated by my 5K time. So, my method is to just try a new challenge every year now, and hoping that I can learn not only new things about myself, but all these different types of races and new challenges. Like, I'm learning different training strategies and workouts and philosophies that I can hopefully apply to my athletes. Even if you're not training for an ultra, there's always something that you can learn as you're, kind of being an experiment of n equals one on yourself. Right. So hopefully, hopefully something good comes out of these races, because that's why I do them now.
And that's coming with the guidance of your coach, Julie, who I got to meet in Tahoe at Western States.
Oh, yes. Julie, it's so interesting. I find myself calling her, she is my coach, but I find myself calling her a mentor sometimes. And I mean, that's what a coach is at the end of the day as well. But I don't know. She just gives off definitely more of like the nurturing, caring, mentoring side of things. And it's less about like run these 8 miles with X number of hills in the middle. Like, yes, of course, I appreciate all the coaching and guidance that she gives, but I love her approach to coaching these distances. She's big into, well, we've trained for the Speed Project solo and now Leadville, and they were both very different experiences. And I like that she tries to practice like each section of the race or each scenario that you might run into, and just trying maybe like different things to get yourself out of these scenarios, so that come race day, you've already experienced all these things and you're like, okay, I know what to do now.
Yeah, and it's like coaching the whole athlete. I think I think it was Steve Magnus. He talked about like he's most interested in having an athlete be happy and fulfilled in the training process versus like nailing your splits. Like if you're nailing your splits and the rest of your life is a wreck, what's the point? But if you're happy, not every day, but in your running and finding adventure, like you're going to hit your splits, you're going to hit your long runs, you're going to hit your workouts.
Oh yeah, well, the life was definitely a mess leading up to this one too, but she's big into like, I hope to see you smiling out there, or like she'll see something that I post in my Instagram stories and she'll say, I hope that I hear you laughing that hard at Leadville 100. Like, if we're not having fun while we're out there, then we've done something terribly wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, it's not fun all the time. Like, I was at Twin Lakes and was sitting and watching a woman puke and eat ramen and puke and eat ramen and puke and taking electrolytes.
Oh, I mean,
I was
she
like,
didn't give up. She really kept trying to eat, huh?
and that was on the inbound or the outbound. So she was
Yeah,
only 40 miles in, and things had gone pretty south. But like that moment is not fun, I can imagine. But the like digging through and pushing past, right? Like after I got back from Leadville, I tweeted like, I want to run 100 miles to see what happens when things go south and when I experience like actual discomfort and
right.
um, not failure, but like basically understand where my mind goes when things go south. I
Yeah.
think a lot of runners and a lot of people like don't deal with discomfort in their lives on a regular basis.
Mhm.
You have your routine, you go to work, work is challenging, maybe your boss, needs help or whatever and is taking something out on you or not, and your dog poops in your bed, but like there's not like
Yes,
for the most people, right? You know what I'm
you
saying?
can tell when you meet someone who has maybe never been through actual adversity in their entire lives. It's apparent.
Right.
So,
Whereas we're choosing that type of discomfort in running where it's like if this is comfortable for the entire duration,
yeah.
go faster or go longer. Like it's not possible to execute 100 miles or execute a 50 miler or even execute like racing a marathon and having it not hurt. I think you could run a marathon and have it not hurt, but um, beyond that, you can't race.
Probably didn't
You
run
can't.
it. Yeah, you probably didn't run it right if it didn't hurt.
Right.
But yes. But sure, anything after a marathon for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me about your experience with like standing on that start line and being like, I don't know what's on the other side of this, but I can't wait.
We finally got to that mindset in the 11th hour. I feel like we were a little touch and go with the training leading up to this one. I can't say that I was excited about it the entire time, but I was excited when I toed the starting line. And there's like some photos that my friend and crew member Gretchen took. Like you could just see the complete fear in my eyes in some of these photos. There was no hiding it. I had never been this nervous for a race in my entire life. And I think it was maybe mostly due to the unknown, right? So it's not that I didn't know the 100-mile distance. I had never run a mountain 100-miler. I had never run at altitude. I had never like
And
chased
it's high
cutoff
altitude.
times with very high altitude. Yeah. So just like not seeing something for the first time and not like knowing what it's going to feel like and not knowing, like, it's going to be hard, but like how hard exactly? There's like different levels of hard when it comes to 100-milers. And like years ago, I vowed to never even attempt this race because I had seen plenty of New York, not plenty. I've seen a handful of New Yorkers, go to this race who I think are a lot stronger than me, and they weren't able to finish. And so I thought to myself, like, why would I even attempt this? Like, this is so silly. So finally making it to the starting line and convincing yourself to be there. Like, I had never been so nervous, and there was no hiding it.
So why'd you do it?
It's this whole try a new challenge every year thing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe next year we try pickleball as a challenge or something. But Jesus. Uh so last year was like my first multi-day race, so that was something different. And then this year, I mean, the founder Ken says it in all the sizzle reels where you don't find Leadville, Leadville finds you. And that was very true. That was literally true in this case because it was Lifetime Fitness who approached me about the race, actually. And so, I'm very grateful that Lifetime gave me the opportunity to run it. And I'm a big believer in like, okay, this opportunity came to me. Like it's a sign. You have to do it. You'd be stupid not to do it. Like if someone you could try for like a few years to get into the lottery for Leadville and not get in. And someone came to me with this opportunity. Like, you have to take it and do it. So I thought it was a sign, and I thought, okay, this is this year's new challenge. We're going to try and do our first mountain race / at altitude race.
So when we were running together on Friday, you were like, I wish people would stop asking me if I'm ready.
Ooh, and how are you feeling? So now that is one big lesson learned. I am never going to text any of my athletes before their race, how are you feeling? Because I didn't want to hear that question one more time. It's just, how are you feeling? And are you ready? I was going to lose my mind.
No, you weren't
I'm
ready.
like, no, I have absolutely no idea if I'm ready. How do you want me to answer that? Am I ready? I don't think you ever feel ready towing the starting line of a 100-mile race. Like, I've completed them before and I haven't felt like ready. You never know. That's like the thing with these ultra distances, is there's so many variables and obstacles, and something's going to pop up. Something's going to go wrong, whether it's like you're puking up your ramen, or like you sprain your ankle, or like whatever, like something is going to happen. So how in the heck do you say like, yeah, I feel pretty confident. Like, feel ready. I feel confident. I'm feeling great, feeling fine. I just didn't want to hear those questions anymore, because like I said, I've never been so nervous for a race before. So yeah, you found me separating myself from the pack.
Yeah, and I found it so interesting because I was like, she seems like really bubbly and social, and she's like hanging off the back of the pack. I wonder what's going on here.
I didn't want to be with people anymore. No more people, no more feelings.
What's the takeaway from that?
Like, from that specific experience? Well, I mean, we all, and Julie has said this, like, where do you find your energy before a race, right? And so a lot of people find their energy with groups, right? And it's like that group energy. And so you go to the shakeout run and, you're shaking out the nerves, and you get to talk to people and, hang out with Sally McRae, and all of those things are great. I get my energy from like sitting in a dark, quiet room, like watching murder on TV. Like, I don't, it's like, I love it. And it's what I do for my job every day. And I'm very grateful that I get to do it for my job every day. But I can't say that it like gives me energy. And so like the day before a race, you really have to prioritize like, okay, what is going to give you energy and what is going to like suck it away from you.
Got it. So in your intro to yourself, you mentioned or alluded to community a handful of times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to see the things that you're doing in New York, which an outsider might not think of as like a trail community. And maybe an insider might not think of it as a trail community, but talk to me about
there's still a few haters on the inside too. Yeah.
It is New York after all.
Yeah.
Talk to me about community. What does community mean to you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. What does community mean to me? Yeah, okay. I'm going to start off with an example of what it means to me, because, and I hate to sound cheesy and say like, it means family, but I can tell you it definitely doesn't mean running. So like my favorite part of, how I know that we have created a community, it's always the after the run part. Like it was one of my favorite things to take a step back after, whether it's a social run or the long run on the weekend or like a track workout on Tuesday, that moment of the run is done and everyone is still hanging out, right? Like everyone's still like sitting around, like legs up against the wall, having their like food afterwards, and everyone's just like sitting around and talking, whether it's about the run or about anything else. And so people show up to these runs to see each other, right? Like, yes, it's almost like the run is secondary. I feel like that's how I know when we've created a community, is it's now something that you want to go to and you want to be a part of, and you feel like you're a part of something. And, you just so happened to go for a run. So that's always like my goal for creating community at these various runs. And I guess that's like a roundabout way of saying what community means to me.
Yeah, definitely. I love the aspect of like showing up for the people and you happen to get a good workout in.
Yeah, yeah. I also get thanked for workouts, which, always warms my heart when I get thanked for nothing warms my heart more than being like thanked for a run. So yes, people people still show up for the run, but like there's no shortage of options of runs in New York City. So why did you choose this one? Is it because like, it's the best location? Like I hope not. Like I hope that you chose this one because like you want to be there and you feel like you're a part of something that's greater than the run.
Totally. So I got my like Boston fitness start through November Project. And so it was very similar for me that it was like all about the people and a really hard workout and like the lingering afterwards for like an hour. I was like, does nobody have a job here? Like how are you guys here till 9:30 every single day? Uh
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, that's what it was all about for me initially, and then, like, finding, um it's so cool watching UTMB and seeing friends on the screen. Anyway, I'm just like, "Wait, I know her." Um, and then just, like, finding confidence from the people around you and from the consistency of doing it, and I started when I wasn't a runner and sort of, like, grew into becoming a runner through exposure therapy, I guess, and,
Mhm.
and here we are.
Yeah, because group running can be intimidating at first, right? Like, especially when you're a beginner runner, you feel like you either don't belong or you're not fast enough, or you worry about anything and everything whenever you're a beginner runner, right? So, I hope that we have enough options in New York and like specifically with some of these Nike community runs where it should feel like almost like your gateway drug into running, where it's like, okay, come to this community run. It is going to be chill. It's going to be a 5K. There's going to be good people, good times, and hopefully, people build confidence from that, and then they go and find their own crew or their own team, their own tribe. So, yeah, it's definitely like exposure therapy. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna stop saying gateway drug and start saying exposure therapy. Okay, these Nike community runs are exposure therapy. I like that.
Spectating ultras is my exposure therapy to running at night because
Oh,
I am
you don't like running
terrified
at
of it.
night?
I don't like running at night, and that's like
That's the
my
best part.
my limiting factor of like doing longer stuff at the moment. But again, exposure therapy. The more you do it, the
Yeah.
easier it gets. Let's get back to talking about Leadville because I'm so curious about your experience there, particularly because it didn't end as you probably would have hoped.
Yes, it didn't. Of course, that's the ultimate goal, is to finish and have that like reward and excitement to share, not just with yourself, but with your whole team and like going through this difficult thing together. So, yes, I didn't hit the ultimate goal. But this one was kind of interesting in that, as soon as I didn't make the cutoff time at Winfield at the halfway point, at the 50-mile point, we had no communication at Winfield, no cell service, no way to like tell your crew that you had dropped out. But when I finally was able to contact them, like the first thing I said was, I don't want to see any like boohoo puppy dog eyes looking at me like you feel sorry for me. Like, I don't want any of that. I want like clapping and celebration. Like, we are not like doing this whole, oh, how do you feel? Nope. We're not doing that. Like, how do you feel? I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hear any, I'm so sorry, because there honestly wasn't any regrets from the race. There wasn't like oh, if we would have spent less time at this aid station, we would have made it in time. Like, that didn't happen. There was no like nursing an injury. There was no, equipment issues. Like, there was no thing that any of us like regret or would have changed that I think would have changed the outcome. I just like didn't have the leg speed to make it to the cutoff times in time. And so It's not like we quit when it got hard. There's plenty of folks that I saw quitting before even knowing if they were going to make it to the cutoff time or not. And so we made it our goal, back when I was in a dark place during training. We, instead of dropping out of the race, we said we're still going to show up, and we're going to go as far as we can possibly go, and let's see what that number is. So sure, it didn't it didn't end how I wanted to, because now we're going to have to go back, and I really wasn't planning on going back. Oh, I was really hoping this was a one and done learning experience, but here we are. We're gonna have to go back. But I don't know. It just is so weird. Even though you didn't have the outcome that you wanted, there was nothing but positive takeaways from it. And even things that didn't go perfectly, there was no regrets. It was just like, okay, well, we'll change that for next time.
If you've been enjoying this podcast and can spare 90 seconds of your time today, can you do me a favor? Can you pop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review? It helps other people find and enjoy the podcast too. Thanks so much. Previnex has amazing products that have benefit my health and the health of other runners that I know, which is why I'm so excited to introduce Previnex to you as our newest sponsor. They also have a killer everyday immune supplement called Immune Health Plus that I've been taking and will tell you about in a future episode, but I highly, highly recommend you check these out and try the products for yourself. One of the best parts is that if you don't experience benefits on any product within 30 days, they have a no questions asked 100% money back guarantee for a full refund. You have no risk and everything to gain here. Use code FTLR for 15% off your first purchase of any products at Previnex.com. That's Previnex.com. And I can't wait to hear about how these products are making a difference in creating health in your life. Thanks again to Freedom Solar Power for supporting this episode of the podcast and our environment by providing an easy, green energy source. The buying process was fascinating and eye-opening, and I am excited to pay my learnings forward. If you're curious about going solar in your home, message me on Twitter or Instagram, and I'd be happy to help your journey by providing some great resources. Freedom Solar is a full-service solar company that's been installing solar panels and backup power systems since 2007. They operate in Texas, Colorado, Virginia, and Florida. Not in any of those states? Don't fret, my parents have the same panels from SunPower that were installed by a different company in Massachusetts. SunPower is the best in the business, and that's what Freedom Solar uses. I've enjoyed working with the whole team over at Freedom Solar, and I'm sure you will too. Thanks again to Tracksmith for supporting the podcast and for their continued support of not just this podcast, but for the running community in general. I'm proud to partner with Tracksmith, and I'm excited that with all purchases made using the code FTLR, you will get free shipping, and Tracksmith will donate 5% to Bigger Than the Trail, an organization that is using trail running as a platform to advocate for and provide resources related to mental health. So let's rewind back to coming up Hope Pass. And you're thinking, are you thinking at that point that it might be close?
Yeah, I was worried about not even making it to Hope Pass in time. We knew it was, we were in code red at that time and knew it needed to be a grind to get to the top. So
for those who don't know, Hope Pass, Leadville is 100 miles, spoiler alert. It's a 50-mile out and back. You go to an aid station called Winfield.
Winfield is the 50-mile one. Yep, that turnaround. Right.
And Hope Pass is on both sides of it. So you climb Hope Pass, which is 12,500 feet. You go down to the 50-mile aid station and then turn around and climb up on the other side and go back to Leadville. So where she's referring to is the climb to the highest point of the race, which you hit twice in the 100 miles. And that's what we're talking about here, just for context.
Yeah, the infamous climb up Hope Pass, the infamous go see the llamas at the top. So
I thought people were joking about that.
You thought you were no,
but then I saw them and I was like, oh my God, these are wild llamas. And people are like, no, they carried up all the supplies.
Yeah, they carried up all the supplies because there's just no other way up. Other than humans muling it up, there was no other way to get that stuff up there. So yeah, the climb is so difficult that they use llamas to to trek the gear and the aid station fuel up there before the race. But yeah, there's a cutoff time at each of these aid stations that we're talking about, and we were just chasing them all day long. And the one to get up to Hope Pass, I was determined to get to the top of Hope Pass. I said I did not come this far to not see the llamas. Like, even if I don't make the cutoff time at Hope Pass, I am like, if halfway up, it's like not a chance in the world we're going to make it in time, too bad. I am still going to the top to see these llamas. And so luckily we made it out of Twin Lakes in time. We're able to continue so I could go to the top of Hope Pass and see these llamas. But it was we were like, seconds from missing the cutoff time up there. And you could hear the aid station people, like, they hurried us out of the aid station because I was kind of with a pack of people at that point, and there was no stopping to refuel. There was no, gather yourself like you usually do at these aid stations. They were like, now's the time to grind it out. If you have a chance of making the next cutoff time, like, go, go, go. And so we just like went through Hope Pass, like didn't really stop and collect ourselves. So we made that one just in time. And I don't know if it was like my expectation versus reality. I mean, this is all my fault, but in my brain, I just pictured going up Hope Pass and then going down Hope Pass. And then like, here you are at your halfway point. Had a lot of fun with that downhill. And I thought that was it. And then someone with cowbells was like, 4 more miles to Winfield. I was like, excuse me? Like, but what do you mean 4 more? Like, we already went up, we went down. There's still a chunk of running that you have to do to make it to Winfield. And that's when it hit me like, oh, there's like, we would have to like run in order to make the Winfield cutoff time. I was like running on false hope there, going up and then down Hope Pass. My like brain didn't remember that there was also a chunk of mileage to do after you go up and then down. You still got a little ways to go until you
But do you
get to
think that that was a
Winfield.
good thing? It like not knowing that that was on the other side. Like, would you have pushed as hard had you known that there was no chance?
Oh, true. Um, I still think I would have pushed that hard to get to the top of Hope Pass because I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said about like I saw the entire course. I ran the Leadville out, not back 100-miler, and so yeah, I really wanted to keep going. That's
So
gonna be on a T-shirt next year, I think.
the Winfield 50-miler?
Yeah, either I ran the Winfield 50-miler or I ran the Leadville out, not back 100-miler.
Nice. Yeah, put that on a T-shirt at the start line. You keep referring to we instead of I, and I think people who do that have a specific appreciation for like what it takes to be successful in this community. What I find to be so interesting is that there are no assholes in trail running, or there are,
Oh,
but
that's a bold statement.
they
Yeah.
don't last, or there like
Okay.
are so few of them because it's so hard to do this without people around you who support you. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the like feeling of you had what 4 or 5 or 6 people supporting you? What was it like to have that type of support fly out to Leadville, dedicate their whole weekend to helping you have fun and achieve goals?
Yeah, I had 3 women on my crew and then one like camera, what is it, documentarist,
Videographer?
video, yeah.
Video
What's the
person?
word of like a, yeah, sure. Uh
Documentarian?
documentarian, I don't know.
Runner with a
But
camera?
yes, yes.
By the way, I think
But
it's the hardest job of all. I'm watching this coverage of UTMB and I'm like, okay, this guy's job is to keep up with Jim Walmsley while holding a camera. Like that's harder than running the race. Anyway,
oh yeah, well, I don't think mine had that quite hard of a job. Yes, much appreciation for those guys. But the main crew was 3 women, and I will admit that that's the one part that I told them, I said, I'm going to say this once, and we don't have to talk about it again. I said, I do feel badly that I had you come all the way out here, and I didn't finish. And of course, at the end of the day, like nobody cares and no one's upset, but like I had to say it. I had to say it once. So yes, I did feel badly that so much time and effort and planning and logistics and group chats were put into the lead up of this, and then taking time out of their lives to fly out there and participate. So I did feel badly that they came all that way for me not to finish. But I do truly believe that everyone still took away something from the race. I have never seen a bunch of women cry so much all weekend. We were a wreck. Oh, even before the race, it was the strangest thing where this race really wasn't just a race. And you hear them talk about being part of the Leadville family, and like you kind of like, oh yeah, like they're trying to make us feel like we're a part of something. And then you get there and they really do a great job at walking the walk and not just talking the talk to make you feel like you're a part of something bigger than the race. And so I think not just myself, but the crew team felt that as well. And so any like promo video we saw, any one-liner from Ken at the pre-race meeting, like we were just crying all weekend. It was just too much. So I think everyone, we didn't walk away with a belt buckle, but I think everyone still walked away with like either re-energized to like take on whatever challenge they have coming up, or my best friend Steph, and now that we're going to say it and record it, now it's going to have to happen. Like my best friend Steph, who was there, this is not her thing at all. She's a very fast road marathoner, and power hiking up mountains is not her thing. And 24 hours after the race, she's crying at dinner saying like, forget the 3-hour marathon. Like we need a new challenge. Like she wants to do this race now. And I never saw that one coming. And so I feel like everyone left with like a piece of Leadville and like something to take away. So, it wasn't a total waste of time.
Well, no, it's so interesting. You said something. You said the line "Nobody cares" that you didn't finish, and I think it's such an interesting point that the cliche of the journey, not the outcome, but like it's so true. Nobody cares. They truly care. Like what about the experience, about the growth, about all this. I did a podcast.
I'm sure they would have cared if I just quit. I'm sure they.
Sure, but like the time, they don't care about the time. They care about the like, what are your takeaways? What is this? I did a podcast earlier this week with Kara Goucher, and a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, or it was 2019. I had my first conversation with her on the podcast right after the Leadville Marathon, and she said that was the hardest thing I've ever done, like including childbirth. Which she reaffirmed on this recording of the podcast. But anyway, she finished in 6th, and she thought she was going to win or podium, and she was embarrassed initially. She's like, I come in with this like pedigree of accomplishments and come in 6th, and she thought that like she'd be laughed at. And so she begrudgingly went to the awards ceremony where all people cared about was, did you have fun and how are the snacks at the aid stations? And for her, it was like such a dichotomy between her experience at the 2016 Olympic trials and coming in 4th. And like that was the only thing that mattered to her and to her fans and whatnot. And then you go to trail racing and it's like nobody cares about the time. It's like, did you have fun? And it's not to knock the road running scene, because I think there's so much value in like, I chased the sub 3-hour marathon for 4 years. And that was a journey that I truly enjoyed. I didn't really like actually have any tangible takeaways until I stopped caring about the time and showed up to the start line and was like, this is a celebration. And then I couldn't stop running 6:40 pace miles. And then it happened. And so it's like and that happened after I got into trail running. And so I think the psyche or the personality or the focus of people who don't run for what's on the watch, but instead what's like in your head and the community and all of this stuff. I think that's the takeaway, at least for me. And again, not knocking road running. Like I go on these like rants about how epic trail running is and the trail running community, but you can have those takeaways and you can have those same wins while running roads. And like I ran 3 times this past week without my watch and had better runs than I've had in a long time and ran probably faster than I run in weeks. And that's the takeaway. It's like we're such slaves to this technology that is supposed to be helping us.
Yeah. I definitely had a moment of getting off of the tracking platform. So I totally agree with that. But yeah, we definitely can't knock road running. I coach road running every day, so we are not knocking road running. I think you're just challenging yourself in different ways, or I almost feel like trail running and ultra running, it's more working on yourself as a person versus like road running is definitely working on your fitness. But I don't know. I just feel like you learn more about yourself as a person with the ultra and with the trail running, but definitely not knocking road running. Running a 26.2 mile fast road race sounds very hard, and I don't want to do it. So that's
It is
it
really
sounds
hard.
way harder than 50 miles in the mountains. Like, yes, I'm lazy. I think ultras are for lazy people.
So when I went to Western States for the first time, I didn't yet have a podcast. It was 2018. Oh, the horror. And I was just so fascinated by asking people, why are you doing this? Right? Like wake up at 3 a.m., start running at 5 a.m. for up to 30 hours. One guy was like, because it's easier than a 5K. I was like, what?
I would much rather death by 1,000 cuts than run
It's so
fast and hold
fascinating.
on.
All right,
Yeah,
let's
to each their own.
to each their own. Let's switch over to some of the questions that have come in from your fans.
No, well, are they fans? Okay.
You can be the judge of it after the questions. How do you feel about napping in the middle of a 100-mile race to power through?
I wish I had the luxury of time to nap during these races. That's for sure. I think I live and die by naps every day. I think naps are life, and I unfortunately I got to work on my leg speed so that I do have the luxury of time of taking a power nap in the middle of these.
There you go.
I would love nothing more.
Brad Runs Far says, "Is vert real?"
Oh, Jesus. Vert is very much real, but I can say that wasn't, I don't know. I thought the hike up Hope Pass was enjoyable. Like, not like
Yeah, it wasn't
I
that
trained
hard.
for that part. No, I am not saying that. It was like clearly hard, but maybe that was the only piece of the race where like expectation equaled reality. Like we knew about that piece and we practiced that piece. So I didn't hate that part. So yeah, vert is real.
Does any flirting happen on the trails or at aid stations?
Oh, sweet Jesus. Um,
I'll tell you who asked this one later.
Okay. Well, talk about women uplifting women. It wasn't flirting. One woman, I don't know who she was, but it's an out and back course, so you see people coming in the opposite direction, and she stopped in her tracks and looked at me and she said, "You are just so beautiful." I was like, "What?" Like, what the I was not expecting that. I put a little pep in my step. But yes, sure. What else do you have to do out there other than run? So yeah, sure. There's some flirting on the trails.
Here's a 4-part question.
Oh, geez.
Well, it's just a long question that was broken into 4 questions.
I'm also going to try and guess later who wrote this one, but go ahead.
The answer is in the question. How did you so quickly and gracefully frame your experience in a positive light and exude such pride and contentment that your people could quickly see such value in your experience despite not making it to the 100-mile mark? I ask as you're completely blown away and inspired BFF who wants to be you when I grow up?
I think that one came from Steph.
Yep.
Um, that was very kind. Um, yes, we got in front of it straight away. And like this was being documented, and I knew it was going to be, I was going to be failing on a very public stage that is Nike running. So I didn't want that to be the story. And I knew that I didn't want it to be the story. And I knew that we set out to do what we said we would do. So, yeah, like I said, as soon as we didn't hit the 50-mile turnaround, it was like, no, we are not crying. I don't want to see anyone like sad. So we just got out in front of it right away because I truly felt like in my core that there weren't any regrets from that day.
Every time you say no regrets, I think of the meme that's just like no
I know.
regrets.
No regrets from Leadville.
No regrets. So you said this was, in your words, failing on a very public stage. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think there's some good that can be taken away from that?
Oh, I sure hope so. Otherwise, why did we do this other than to learn something about ourselves? But I sure hope that there was some takeaways or inspiring people. Like we already saw some comments come in of all right, I've been afraid to sign up for my first ultra, and they like posted a screenshot of their ultra sign up of their first 50K, and she's like, fuck it, I'm never going to feel ready. And you just showed that even if you think that the challenge is bigger than you, like try it anyways. And so I think that even though we failed on a public stage, I'm a firm believer in showing the good, the bad, and the ugly because you can learn even more from the bad and the ugly sometimes than you can from the good stuff. So I think we should celebrate all of it. And you know, even whenever you hit your goals and finishing times, like not being afraid to celebrate that and owning it. So hopefully, even though it wasn't like the quote unquote outcome that we wanted, it's still out there for for everyone to see. And hopefully, and I'm not here to like inspire people to run their first ultra. That's not my goal. Um, like my brother sent like a PR with his like squat or powerlifting or something. Like whatever your thing is, like that you've been maybe like too afraid to try or thought that you would never be ready for, like that's what I want to inspire people to do. It's not necessarily like sign up for your first ultra, though I support that as well.
Yeah, it's so cool. I've heard, maybe it's because of the people I surround myself with, but like you're never fully ready for XYZ, whatever it is. First
Hmm.
run, first distance, first whatever the like tangible thing is. And it's like so much worse to not try and wonder than to try and not have the outcome that you anticipated. And so I
Yeah.
think that like in this social media highlight reel world we live in, like seeing actual challenge and things that don't go as expected is so important. And I think the more of that we see, the better, because A, it'll inspire more people to try things, and B, it'll make people who try things and don't succeed in the way that they expected, like not feel like shit, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely don't feel like shit, but also like, you know, don't be so comfortable with the failure either. I'm not saying like, oh, this is a great thing. Like, no, now we have to go back out and try it again. Like, so yes, being okay with it, but also taking
Get it done.
those takeaways and lessons learned and trying it again or trying something else. But yeah, always growing, always learning, always always character development, it seems. So,
Cool. What does success mean to you?
oh boy. Like like success in general, success with running. I don't know about success in general. I would say what success means to me, let's just keep going back to the let's just keep going back to the no regrets. Like so success to me would mean like not looking back on something and basically walking away with no what ifs, ands, or buts, right? Like success was you went out to do what you said you were going to do, and that was the success, not necessarily a time or a distance or anything like that, but just being able to look back and not regret anything or want to necessarily change anything. I think that's success.
So by that definition, your experience at Leadville was a huge success.
Okay, well, let's not say like huge success. Like, I don't know, like, was it a huge success? I think it was a success in that, we went from vowing to never do this race to now, like, we're going to go back multiple times until we finish this thing.
And not just you.
Not just me. What a plot twist. That was the plot twist of all the plot twists, was Steph crying at dinner saying she was going to do this thing. So
now it's on record.
Now it's on record. And, like we said, if it's meant to be, it will be. We'll see if the cards fall where they may next year with the lottery. So, yeah.
Cool.
We won't be afraid to enter the lottery, though. So.
Yeah. Jess, thanks so much for taking some time to chat. If those who are listening don't yet follow you, where can we find you on your corner of the internet?
Mostly on Instagram, and it's JESLYNNYC.
Awesome. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next time on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too. This podcast and the accompanying music has been produced by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound. For the Long Run's logo was created by Vanessa Wolf of Sterling Wolf. Show notes have been written by Ruby Wiles and is managed by Emily Holland. It takes a village.